Against all odds. Scientific evidence points to out of the Americas. Despite this and other evidence, also of the former video, in favor of out of the Americas, and despite some of the most important scientific evidence having become a proof against the out of Africa hypothesis, quite some scientists, but especially the general public, keep on blindly consuming narratives related to out of Africa and consensus, with blind, most of the time. We simply mean the consuming of narratives, this without consulting the scientific and essential ancestral markers, and also without paying attention to many of the clear paradigms that come together with the consensus narratives or hypotheses. We of Origin for Existence both pay attention to the ancestral markers, as well as to eventual paradigms, and try to inform the public about them and their importance. As an example of the latter, the claimed mitochondrial or African Eve, once touted to prove consensus, turned into one more proof against out of Africa, and at the same time one more proof in favor of and proof of out of the Americas. 4 years now, Origin for Existence has been insisting on us 8 billion humans to finally follow all the science, and next recognize what the science tells us, and consider practicing the favorable and sustainable practices and lifestyle they provenly thrived with. The main reason that Origin for Existence has been doing this effort for years is because the solution of all our challenges almost evidently is demonstrated by our origin, and consequently there where the science and ancestral markers point out our origin, which was and is in the Americas, in the Amazon forest. It is in our all origin that our ancestors executed and lived sustainable practices and lifestyles. The only thing we modern humans would need to do in order to also thrive and solve our challenges would be starting to follow the science, stop negating the obvious ancestral markers, recognizing our true origin, look into our origin's thriving and obviously sustainable practices and lifestyles, and adapt these to our actual and modern lifestyles. While this adapting to our actual and modern lifestyle is something extremely easy to practice for us modern humans. In order to be the origin of all 8 billion modern humans that are now spread around the world, our origin obviously presented a favorable and stable DNA, providing impeccable or at least very good heart and brain health, as well as present relative absence of degenerative diseases. The only groups that present exactly all this, and this by far, still today only can be found amongst the Amazon Amerindians, which also, and this is not at all coincidentally, are the same ones our most relevant ancestral markers point out to be our ancestors. Furthermore, and also not at all coincidentally, already starting in the deep past, our ancestors practiced sustainable practices and a sustainable lifestyle, which they still practice today, and of which there is more evidence of this almost on a daily basis, namely the extreme sustainable practice of carbon agroforests, which still can be found in the Amazon forest, that abundantly provided, and still provides them all the healthy food they need, this without any of the most typical agricultural practices, this way, and with this healthy food, maintaining their also genetically very good health. Jumping genes. Jumping genes, JG, are further clear ancestral markers, and we humans dispose of clear world maps based on them, that point out our origin lies in South America. Jumping gene, PV92. On the map on your screen, it becomes evident that the jumping gene PV92 presents a frequency gradient that starts high with the highest frequency of 96 in South America. 100 is the maximum frequency of any jumping gene. Native people of South America present the highest frequency of 96 of the jumping gene PV92 in South America, and consequently are the ancestors of all people with lower jumping gene PV92 frequencies, which is the rest of the world. The clear gradient to the lowest frequencies is not random, but quite gradual. Further, the frequencies of the jumping gene PV92 as said goes down gradually, this from east to west. This also largely associated with the Austronesian expansion, as well as the population Y expansion, that both by themselves are associated at least initially with the progress starting off with haplogroup C with its oldest root in Ecuador, and a number of the native peoples along the Austronesian and population Y expansion, from Polynesia, Australia, and Japan, all presenting haplogroup C, this at some early point in time. Regarding frequencies, the group of Philippines, Asia, East Asia, and Southeast Asia comes next. Central America, always connected with South America, with strong cultural and historical connection to South America, particularly in the South, still with a high PV92 frequency of 70, is strongly influenced by the population Y expansions. Europe is least influenced by the Austronesian expansions and the population Y expansions. India, Pakistan, and the Middle East are key and central, and more than average influenced by the Austronesian expansions and the population Y expansions. Resuming, the highest frequency represents the origin and the ancestors, at least of these very early expansions, around 50 to 70,000 years ago, preceding or contemporary with a hypothesized out-of-Africa expansion around the same time, assuming the migration of the also hypothesized mitochondrial Eve. For a number of reasons, we claim that it are the Austronesian expansions and the population Y expansions that also migrate the proven American mitochondrial Eve to Africa, at that same time, or even earlier during direct, through the South Atlantic Gyre, Americas to Africa migrations or expansions, that are subject of other of our videos and series.